I received an email from Daniel who wanted to know why are some people's max heart rate numbers different from somebody that's the same age and at the quote-unquote same athletic level. Fantastic question, Daniel, and thank you for sending the question in. When it comes to maximum heart rate, there's a multitude of elements that have to be factored in. Some of the obvious would be what your current level of fitness is, and also don't forget, what is your historical history of athletics? Stop and think about that. Somebody who was a collegiate swimmer who then takes a 5 or 10-year sabbatical, when they resume swimming 10 or 15 years later, doesn't take very long for them to get back into shape because of all of the previous years and experience. That's what we refer to as athletic maturity. You never lose the experience of previous workouts. Keep that in mind. That's why consistency is so important. When we look at what would influence max heart rate, I want you to stop and zoom out with me here for just a moment. When you're looking at producing a high level of speed, it requires a tremendous base of strength and aerobic capacity. If one of those are weaker than the other, it will always be the element that holds you back. So when we're doing field testing with our clients and we say, okay, we're going to do a field test of X distance, when the assessment is done, the very first question you have to ask yourself is, what gave up first? Did you run out of breath, aerobic capacity? Did the muscles fatigue, strength? Also, you could factor in anaerobic threshold, your ability to tolerate the presence of lactic acid. So what I always say is, think about these two as a set of railroad tracks. If your aerobic engine develops at the expense of your strength base, well, your strength base is what's going to hold you back. You may find that your legs get tired during a bicycle time trial before you run out of breath. That just shows you that your strength is lagging behind the aerobic capacity. If you find that you're super strong but you just can't catch your breath, your railroad tracks have gotten out of alignment because the strength base has improved but the aerobic capacity has not. Now, with that being said, this comes from Daniel, right? He had an experience where him and somebody else are very similar in age and athletic capabilities, but yet their max heart rate numbers were so different. I do want you to recognize that there's always going to be a percentage that's going to be factored in based on genetics. So just because you may be the same height, gender, age, the whole 9 yards, does not mean that your max heart rate number is going to be the same. Genetics are going to play a role, past physical experience, current level of fitness. Also, hydration levels, sleep, nutrition habits, that, believe it or not, can directly influence max heart rate number. So when we're looking at the capacity to improve your max heart rate number, you've got to look at all the elements of being prepared. You got to add the elements of consistency and then have an evaluation criteria to find out which one is your biggest opportunities for improvement during your next training block. So that way when you field test again, you see a lot more parity. So Daniel, thank you so much for the question. If you happen to have a question, please feel free to send it in to me. contact@coachrobb.com. Leave me a message below. I'll do my level best to answer any questions that you may have. And as always, thank you so much for watching these videos.